It was the summer of 1936, and Berlin was dressed for spectacle. Nazi flags lined the streets. The Olympic Stadium, newly built and gleaming in the sun, became more than just a sports venue. It was a monument to ideology. For Adolf Hitler, the Games were a golden opportunity to broadcast the supposed supremacy of his Aryan vision to the world. He believed the Olympics would validate his myth that the German race was destined to dominate. Cameras rolled. Speeches echoed. The world watched as politics and pageantry merged in terrifying harmony. But beneath the pomp and orchestrated nationalism, another story was preparing to sprint into history. A 22-year-old African-American athlete, raised in the poverty of Alabama and scarred by America's own racism, had arrived in Berlin. His name was Jesse Owens. And in a few days, he wouldn't just challenge Nazi propaganda, he would annihilate it. Not with speeches or protests, but with something far more powerful, raw, undeniable excellence. Jesse Owens was born in 1913 in Oakville, Alabama, the son of sharecroppers, the grandson of slaves. His early years were spent in fields, not playgrounds. Poverty wasn't a chapter in his life, it was the backdrop. When he moved north to Cleveland during the Great Migration, the streets were different, but the struggle was familiar. Jesse's lungs carried the southern dust. His legs moved with the urgency of a boy who knew that being fast might be the only way forward. By junior high, coaches knew he wasn't just quick, he was transcendent. But America wasn't ready to embrace him, even as he shattered records in high school and at Ohio State. Owens couldn't stay in campus dorms, couldn't eat in the same restaurants as his white teammates. He was a star on the track and invisible off it. Still, he ran. Not for applause, not for headlines, but because slowing down was never an option. To Adolf Hitler, the 1936 Olympics were more than sport, they were stagecraft. The Games weren't just hosted, they were choreographed. The torch relay, a Nazi invention, linked modern athletics with ancient Aryan mythology. Architect Albert Speer designed the stadium like a temple. Leni Riefenstahl, the master propagandist behind Triumph of the Will, was commissioned to film it all. Every camera angle, every uniform, every banner meticulously curated to show a powerful, orderly Germany reborn. It was sports washing on an Olympic scale, where athletics became a Trojan horse for authoritarianism. Foreign nations debated boycotting, but in the end, 49 countries came. The world walked into Hitler's house, and Hitler believed they'd leave convinced the Aryan race reigned supreme. But the Führer hadn't accounted for a 5'10" man from Cleveland. Even in America, Jesse Owens wasn't seen as a symbol. To many, he was a risk. Debates raged. Should the US attend a Nazi-hosted event? Should a black athlete represent a country that barely recognized his rights? Jesse just wanted to run. No politics. No speeches. He was 22 years old and already carried the weight of two nations, one that feared him and one that hated him. But when the American team stepped into that colossal stadium, Owens wasn't thinking about geopolitics. He was thinking about the blocks, the wind, and the 100 meters ahead. What he didn't know was that every footstep he took would echo louder than any speech given that year. August 3rd, 1936. The men's 100-meter final. A stadium of 100,000 falls quiet. 8 athletes crouch. A pistol cracks. And in just 10.3 seconds, Jesse Owens rewrites history. He doesn't just win, he dominates. The crowd erupts. Hitler, who had been personally congratulating only Aryan victors, abruptly leaves. Owens, smiling, is lifted by teammates. But the meaning travels deeper than medals. In those 10 seconds, Owens disproves a regime's entire worldview. He's not supposed to be faster. He's not supposed to be on the podium. But he is. And the world sees it. Clear, undeniable. In one race, the lie of racial superiority crumbles under the soles of a black man's spikes. But Owens wasn't done. Over the next week, he'd win 3 more golds long jump, 200 meters, and 4x100 relay. 4 events. 4 world-class victories. He became friends with Luz Long, a Nazi Germany athlete. It was a moment of human decency in a sea of ideology. Owens wasn't just racing opponents, he was racing against a Russia. With every medal, he forced Nazi cameras to record a truth they wanted to ignore. That greatness doesn't come with skin color. That the Olympic spirit can outshine even the darkest propaganda. Jesse Owens didn't run for politics, but in Berlin, he outran an empire. Back home, Jesse Owens returned to a country quick to celebrate, slow to change. He received no invitation to the White House. No phone call from President Roosevelt. At a reception held in his honor, he was forced to enter through a side door because the front was whites only. The same America that held him up as a symbol refused to let him sit at the table. Jesse later said, "I wasn't invited to shake hands with Hitler. But I wasn't invited to the White House to shake hands with the president either." The world had cheered him, but at home, he remained a second-class citizen. Jesse Owens proved something eternal: sports can outsprint power. When the arena is pure, it humbles propaganda, softens walls, and exposes lies. In Berlin, the Nazis couldn't spin the stopwatch, couldn't censor the scoreboard, couldn't reframe the roar of the crowd. Owens wasn't political, but his performance was revolutionary. The stadium became a courtroom, and the verdict was thunderous: the truth runs faster than hate. It's why totalitarian regimes fear athletes. Why dictators build stadiums with cameras. Because sport reveals what they try so hard to hide: the human spirit can't be choreographed. Despite his legend, Owens struggled after Berlin. Endorsements were few. Corporate sponsors turned away. He raced against horses for money. He became a symbol of what America does so often: elevate heroes just long enough to forget them. In a 1960s interview, he said, "People say it was different then, but it wasn't. It still isn't." Jesse Owens should have been a millionaire, a global ambassador, a beacon for generations. Instead, he faded quietly into the backdrop of the very nation he had lifted. In 1976, 4 decades too late, the US government awarded Jesse Owens the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He received it with grace, as always. He had no bitterness. But history never owed him a medal, it owed him memory. Jesse Owens didn't ask to be a symbol, he just ran. But the tracks he left were permanent. They led from Oakville to Berlin, to the very conscience of a world teetering between truth and tyranny. He reminded us that courage doesn't always look like protest. Sometimes, it looks like a man in spikes facing a dictator's gaze and refusing to lose. Today, every athlete who steps onto a world stage owes something to Jesse Owens. His legacy isn't just in medals, it's in the idea that greatness can break barriers long before laws do. He wasn't just a runner. He was a disruptor, a blueprint. Proof that talent, when unchained, can bend history. From Berlin to Tokyo to the streets of Minneapolis, his ghost still sprints, reminding us the race isn't just about time, it's about truth. Jesse Owens ran for 10.3 seconds, but the impact of that run has lasted for nearly a century. He didn't carry a flag. He carried a contradiction: the idea that a man could be celebrated and segregated at the same time. That excellence could win medals, but not equity. And still, he ran. Into the storm. Into the myth. Into history. Because sometimes, the most powerful protest is to simply keep running. What Jesse Owens did in Berlin wasn't just history, it was resistance. If that gave you chills, you're in the right place. Hit subscribe. Who is the person from history who inspires you the most? Drop their names in the comments below.